Hey guys, Lord here, back again with another edition of Throwback Thursdays, and what I have for you today is the Kenner Mummies Alive Shabti Trooper. And before we get into the meat and taters of this review, since I no longer have the packaging for this figure, let us first take a look-see at his lone accessory here, which is this spear gun. Question mark. I'm not entirely sure what this is. I'm guessing it's a spear gun. But this is not your typical spring-loaded missile-firing 90s action figure gimmick. This is actually a push-fire. So if you just push on the back here, you can launch the spear and lose it forever. Or get lucky like me and find it 2 seconds later. There you go, and it's got a handle here so he can hold it with his left hand. But, it's alright. I don't remember them using this in the show, but it could have happened. It's been a while. Taking a closer look at our Shabti Trooper here. For those of you guys who don't remember Mummies Alive, these were the evil kind of army builder henchmen types that worked for the evil sorcerer Scarab. Sorry, I had to adjust the lighting there. And there's a bunch of these guys, and they're basically living statues. And while this figure looks awesome, I like the sculpted detail a lot, the colors are not even close. In the show, if memory serves me right, the skin tone of these guys is more like an orange, and their accoutrements, like the costume elements, like this headdress and this little skirt here, was blue and gold, a little bit of white thrown in. So the colors are not accurate in the slightest. That said, much like the Gargoyles line from Kenner, I can only assume that they had concept art to work with, not final character designs used in the show. So we'll let that slide because of the times, but it would have been nice to see a show-accurate version of this guy at some point. I don't even think the stuff that got released overseas had a repaint of this guy. As far as this figure goes, you can actually take this off along with this little claw over here, and the belt. You can take that off too, and then you can take off both shin guards. And then you're left with this knackered figure. Almost knackered. He's got his little skirt still. But why in the Sam hell would you want to do that? I don't know. Because quite frankly, he looks absolutely ridiculous like this. So we're going to put all this stuff back on. Not quite sure why all this stuff comes off. I guess you could mix and match with the Mummies if you want. But I think this guy's a little thinner than the Mummies, so that wouldn't really work. That said, he is in a very battle-ready stance here. Very reminiscent of the Total Justice and Batman figures Kenner was doing at this time. Even the Star Wars Power of the Force. That said, he's a little tricky to stand. But it is what it is. As far as articulation goes, well, the only way you can articulate the head is if you take that off. But I don't know anyone who wouldn't want to leave it on. I mean, you can articulate it in there a little bit, but not that much. Shoulders move up and down pretty easily. It's got a waist swivel. That does work if the belt doesn't get in the way. And the hips kick forward and back. And I think you can Kick them both up even with the belt on. So here's that. That said, the legs are really spread out. It's kind of tricky to get them to stand sometimes. That said, I do like this figure. I think it's cool looking, but it's just not the most practical, you know? He's difficult to stand. His colors are not even close to the animated series. Maybe this thing is fine, but everything else is off as far as the colors go. There either needs to be more color or a different color entirely. And that spear gun, that's probably one of the better accessories in this line because it does function so well for being a push fire, and it's got the benefit of not having a spring in it, so it doesn't weigh the figure down when you have him holding it in his hand. So, you know, it's not perfect like many a vintage figure, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I still really like this guy. I think he's alright. Throwing the lighting off a little bit because he's so bright and the background's so dark, it just doesn't want to cooperate with me, but that's too bad, man. That's too freaking bad. So, with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is the Shabti Trooper next to a couple other figures I've already taken a look at from the Kenner Mummies Alive line, Jakal and Roth, and I decided to skip Ghost Rider and Spawn for this week's Mummies Alive video because most of the Mummies Alive figures are pretty much the same height, the exception of Armon, who's a little bit on the short side, and actually, considering the character, the Shabti Trooper here is also a little bit on the short side. He should be a head taller than these two, but considering the fact that his legs are pretty widespread and he's not show accurate as far as colors go anyways, I'm okay with this. I think this works for a toy line, and I really have no problem with this. Actually, wouldn't mind grabbing a second one of these if I'm being completely honest with you. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legions, Brother Mandibulus, 11th Spawn, as usual, towers over everyone. So with that being said, time to wrap things up. Some final thoughts. Overall, and just like the Steel Clan robot from the Kenner Gargoyles line, which I took a look at a few months ago now, check that out if you haven't already, while this guy's color palette may not be the most accurate, I do still think he is a super fun figure and is one you should definitely add to your Kenner Mummies Alive collection if you intend to pick up the figures from this line. And much like the Steel Clan robot from the Gargoyles line, I wouldn't mind having a second one of these if I'm being completely honest with you. I think it's a fun figure for the action figure line. It's not accurate to the show by any means. He's too small and the colors aren't right, but at the end of the day, it's still a fun toy. So if you want a cool looking, evil looking Egyptian dude, then this is your man. So that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of Throwback Thursdays. If you're so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil. The world sucks enough as it is, especially when your henchmen crumble to dust. I mean, that's just a bad day, man. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.